Now let's discuss that with Ateneo Policy Center Senior Research Fellow Attorney Michael Yusinko. Thanks for joining us again, Attorney. Good morning.
Good morning to you, Angela, and to Diego, and also good morning to all of your listeners and viewers.
Well, Attorney, ano ba yung kumbaga parang nakita nating diskarte no ng counsel dito ni former President Rodrigo Duterte, when in fact we know no itong desisyon na to, yung oral judgment na to ay dun lamang sa issue ng interim release. Hindi pa ito dun sa issue na pinag-uusapan yung ano niya, yung fit to stand trial. Attorney.
Well, I think you're referring to kung bakit hindi siya mag-attend in person. Yeah. Kasi from the perspective of a practitioner, normally kasi in matters like this one, parang ano to, a matter of course type of hearing. Siyempre hindi mo na pinapa-attend yung kliyente mo, yung akusado, no? Kasi that's going to be an added stress. Anyway, lalong-lalo na kung nakakulong, right? It doesn't matter kung ano yung mangyari ngayon. It doesn't change the reality of the accused, no? Kasi kung mapalaya nga siya o kung mag-grant yung appeal niya, then lalaya siya. So, kumbaga, today, the presence of the accused today is irrelevant or immaterial.
Non-bearing, kumbaga.
For today.
For today. Right? And could it also be paving the way for a possible, kunyari, hindi na-grant yung interim release, for the possible, in the future, filing the motions for, yung fitness to stand trial? O sasabihin nila, hindi niya kaya talaga maka-attend eh.
That could be true, no? That could also be part of the strategy. Kasi, again, the presence of the accused during trial is really, kumbaga, hindi ito yung very important eh. Right? Maganda sana kung nag-a-attend siya, at least from the perspective of the justices or the judges, makikita nila that the accused is interested, no? And invested in attending the trials. But we also have to consider, Angela and Diego, yung circumstances din ni former President Duterte. Right now, I think he's probably too weak, too frail to be physically moving around distances, no? Maglalakad papuntang korte, and also pag nasa korte ka, you have to sit down or stand up and be exposed to the elements. I think health-wise, physical-wise, I think yung hindi niya pag-attend should also be a consideration.
Okay, so yun nga po dito sa magiging oral judgment later, dalawa lang naman yung magiging scenario niyan eh. One would be payagan siya, one would be hindi, 'di ba? So right now, yung mga supporters po ni Pangulong Rodrigo Duterte are on the streets praying at inaabangan yung magiging sagot dito ng ICC pre-trial chamber. And yesterday, we were talking to Attorney Cristina Conti ng ICC, Assistant to Counsel. She said, meron din na parang watch party sa hanay naman ng mga family ng victims dito sa kaso na ito. So, what would be the, kumbaga parang impact politically dito sa ating bansa nitong magiging desisyon ng ICC pre-trial chamber?
I think politics-wise, I think it will have minimal impact, no? Kasi right now, lahat tayo nakatutok tayo dun sa flood control problem, yung corruption infrastructure projects na afflicted by corruption.
Yeah.
But I don't want to minimize the gravity of this matter, no? Kasi yung side ng mga victims of EJK, sa kanila, this is very important.
That's right.
This issue is very important to them. Kaya nga sila pumunta sa ICC, right? Kasi they couldn't get the justice they want from our courts, from our government. So, whatever happens in this matter is very important to them. And I think yun yung dapat ma-emphasize dito. No?
Right. But what about the Duterte's political influence dito, attorney? Meron ba yung effect din?
siguro very minimal effect, no? Kasi right now yung Duterte side, no, yung Duterte force, for a lack of a better term, they're challenged by many, or they are challenged on many fronts, right?
Yeah, that's right.
Meron silang corruption angle din, meron din silang resources angle din, and I think yung pinaka-importante ngayon is that they are being branded as pro-China, right? So, kumbaga, from their perspective, I would say this is only a fraction of the challenges that they're facing politically, no? But of course, sa pamilya nila, it's also very important kasi nakakulong yung patriarch nila eh.
Yeah, that's right.
Kumbaga, papasok na yung Pasko, how will they spend Christmas, no? They're going to spend it in a vastly different way, no? Na yung patriarch nila nakakulong, sila dito sa Pilipinas, malayong-malayo. Pero
Go ahead.
What I just want to say is tayong outside of that circle, no?
Yeah.
I think mas matimbang dapat sa atin yung perspective ng mga victims of the EJK.
Yeah, that's right.
That's right.
Mas matimbang dapat yung tingin natin kasi they are fighting for justice eh. So at least ako nakabaling, no, na I want to support them, na ito yung hinahanap yung hustisya kahit na ba mahirap, but we are there beside you or behind you.
That's right.
Supporting you.
That's right. Parang kasi, attorney, I agree with you on that, na parang nakakalimutan na ng taong bayan on both sides of the political fence. Now, it's not about really their political leaders, but rather the people who suffered immense pain through this issue. Now, pero from a political or PR perspective, attorney, hindi ba mas parang okay if you're on the Duterte side to send the patriarch to be seen on national or international TV as frail, because it may rile up supporters leading up to the rally on, I know it's not prudent to discuss things like this, but if you're a PR spinner, yun ang gagawin mo kasi may rally ka sa November 30 sa Sunday, and makita mo si FPRRD na may following na frail, it could rile up the emotions and maybe help achieve the goals of the Duterte bloc.
Well, that's a fair point, no? Kaya nga ang naisip ko, maybe the former president is really just too weak to move. Baka, physically, baka very challenging na sa kanya yung tumayo ng matagal, maglakad, kahit na ba nasa wheelchair. Di ba? Maybe that's the kumbaga, the difficulty in attending the hearing, no? So, kahit na ba online siya mag-attend, di ba? Kailangan niya magbihis, kailangan niyang umupo ng matagal. So, I think the physical aspect is the challenge for the former president, no? Now, syempre, kung gusto talaga nilang gamitin ito for propaganda, they could. Pero the fact na they all accepted na hindi na siya mag-attend, maybe because it's too difficult talaga
for him,
for his health, for his physical well-being. Baka the risk is just too much. Kahit na ba it can be used for propaganda.
Well, talking about the trillion peso march on November 30, of course, ang pinagkaugatan naman ng rally na yan yung usapin ng anomalous flood control project. So right now, I would like to ask you, Attorney, how is this administration faring, diba? Doing in terms of adhering to their promise, especially si Pangulong Bongbong Marcos sabi niya pagtugis ng mga may kasalanan dito sa anomalous flood control projects.
That's a good question, and the way that I would answer that is I would pinpoint to the ombudsman, yung kung ano yung ginagawa ng ombudsman. And the reason why I'm doing that is because ombudsman lang naman talaga yung makaka-deliver sa atin ng gusto natin, which is makulong yung lahat ng dapat makulong at babawi lahat ng perang ninakaw. No? So President Marcos can't do that, the ICI can't do that, the Senate Blue Ribbon Committee cannot do that. Only the Ombudsman, kung gawin niya yung trabaho niya ng tama, sa pag-prosecute ng kaso sa Sandigan Bayan, matatamo natin yon, no? So, kung titignan natin yung ombudsman, ngayon, yung ginagawa niya, I would say na it's positive. No? Mukhang we're moving towards the right direction. Personally, nagulat nga ako, ang bilis na issue ng warrant eh. Ang personal experience ko kasi dyan, medyo may panahon na lumilipas bago na i-issue ang warrant.
But kahit yung PDAF.
Right, in this case, no, parang wala pang isang linggo, may warrant na agad. Which is the right thing, no? Nagugulat tayo, pero ito yung dapat nangyayari lagi. Right? Hindi dapat ito yung special occasion. Dapat lagi ganito nangyayari. So, given that, I would say, from what I'm seeing with the Ombudsman and also the Sandigan Bayan and also the Supreme Court, no, designating special RTCs for corruption cases. Taking all of those in consideration, I would say that for now, no, we are moving towards the right direction in achieving what we want, which is lahat sila makulong, lahat ng dapat makulong ay makulong at mabawi yung perang mga ninakaw nila.
Yes, and that's right. No, we all want accountability, but I think I agree also with some several luminaries saying that we're also losing sight of another issue altogether. We are reacting to something that has happened and which has damaged the image of this country. What law is there existing, or what laws do we need to pass to ensure things of this magnitude won't happen again? Granted, may mga bagay na ganito mangyayari paulit-ulit, but if you look at the world politics right now, smaller scale corruption led to resignations of their leaders out of shame. So what do we need to do right now as a preventive measure para hindi laging hahabulin natin at ikukulong, just to prevent the damage from happening?
So the quick answer there is to elect better leaders, no? That's the answer. Kasi laws we have. We have the laws that prohibit corruption, penalizes corrupt acts, conflicts of interest. Lahat yan, it's all in the books, no? But the point, ang nangyayari kasi is that we elect the wrong people. We elect thieves, basically, no? Plunderers. So, hindi na, sino ba yung nagpapatupad ng batas? Siyempre, yung mga taong nasa poder, right? So, kung yung mga taong nasa poder ay mismo yung mga nagnanakaw, then obviously, I mean, common sense, they will not implement the law properly. And we know that, we've seen that. No? So, the answer to your question is, if we want things to change, then we have to elect better people.
All right.
Now, medyo grand suggestion yun, di ba? So, to bring that back to earth, I would say, is, siguro, we should first elect non-dynastic lawmakers. Yun na muna. Let's start there, di ba? Let's not go.
I had that in mind.
Meron tayong grand ambition.
That's true.
Meron tayong grand ambition, but let's bring that down to earth and start small and say, let's start by electing non-dynastic lawmakers.
Actually, that's a possibility. Yung electing, because yung
lagyan nila IRR.
Hindi. Yung
enabling law. Diba?
Pag hain mo ng batas, 'di ba, anti-dynasty law, medyo may tulog pa 'yan dahil lahat ng nasa kongreso mo galing sa dinastiya, 'di ba? Pero pag ikaw, taong bayan ang gagawa ng paraan, I think that's a possibility, but we'll see.
Actually, before we let you go quickly, I agree with you. Dalawa nakita ko diyan, non-dynastic leaders. Saka number 2, should we review also yung political system? In other words, two-party system, maybe like the US?
Kasi yung the party system actually that emerges from the people themselves, kung ano yung gusto nila. So it's not about creating a design and then saying ganito tayo. The system evolves from what we want, what we need. So that should start still or also from electing the right leaders, right? Kasi kung ang ini-elect natin, mga dynastic politicians lagi, and they will not change the system, right? Kasi the bad system benefits them.
Yeah.
Okay.
So we have to elect new kinds of politicians, non-dynastic, so that we can start evolving into a better, improved political system.
Alright, sige, maraming salamat po muli sa inyong oras. That was Ateneo Policy Center Senior Research Fellow Attorney Michael Yusinco.